The road to WrestleMania has really got going, but has it hit a few speed bumps? As today we are talking about the WWE Elimination Chamber Premium Live event. Good afternoon, everyone, if you are joining us live here on YouTube. And welcome to BunkaMania Wrestling, where we talk about pro wrestling here on the BunkaMania channel. I am the giraffe of me, Jeremy Graves, and joining me to discuss what was an interesting WWE Premium Live event, to say the least. It is my partner in crime. Let's make a weird analogy. If in the video game world, we're playing Metal Gear Solid, if I'm Solid Snake, he's my Otacon. It is the Dekker Dane, Mr. Ian Bolton. Good sir, how are you doing this Sunday afternoon?
I am doing very, very well. That video game reference, I don't know anything about. I know.
Really? I didn't know. Sorry.
I know of Metal Gear. I know of Metal Gear, and I know of the games, but I haven't actually properly played the game. So it's kind of like I know Solid Snake, and it's like, yay!
Well, I'll let you Google that after the fact. Then
I'll need to change all that, but
there you go.
Doing good.
Before we go any further, folks, just to say, obviously we are live as we are recording this. So if you are in the chat, as it were, feel free to post your comments as we go along. We may read some out during the course of the program. But good sir, we are here to discuss WWE's Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. It took place through the night, UK time, as it were, and there were other events going on as well, which may be different videos coming up, so stay tuned for those. But Elimination Chamber has been and gone. There was a heck of a lot of hype going into this show. From your point of view, general thoughts on what was this Premium Live event?
I think for me, generally, I think it was pretty much all built around the main event of Sami versus Roman, and we'll talk about how that match went, the result, and all that in a few moments. But I think it was built around that. Everything in the build up to that match as well, in terms of the SmackDown and the Raw promos before the events as well, was really good, and it was a really good atmosphere. I think the first thing to really highlight is the Montreal crowd were absolutely superb throughout the entire, not just SmackDown, but I think the entire weekend of shows they've had there for WWE. So that's a big highlight plus. I think generally Elimination Chamber, it basically did what I think a lot of us expected in a way. We obviously have those sort of slight little bits of doubt in the back of our minds, thinking, oh, maybe they might change it, maybe it might go this way, maybe it might go that way. And yeah, it seems like we're still on course as planned in a lot of ways, but I still think I think with the exception of a few things, I think this show was pretty good. It was a pretty decent little show.
Yeah, the crowd, in my opinion, elevated how this show came across. Because there were some things which we'll get on to, I just don't think landed very well at all, which we will discuss, as I say, as we go along. But the crowd elevated this to a whole new level. The emotion that they added, not just throughout the show, let alone the main event, and the ending segment in particular of SmackDown the night before, which if you've not seen it, after we're done here, go onto the BT Sport YouTube channel. You can watch the entire segment. It is pretty incredible how much that crowd is into it. But I suppose let's dive straight in. Otherwise, we're going to sort of skirt around quite a few things for quite a while here. So the show opened up with the Women's Elimination Chamber match to determine the #1 contender for the Raw Women's Championship, specifically who will challenge Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. It was ultimately Asuka defeating Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Natalya, Carmella, and Nikki Cross. Now, first thing I want to point out, because I think this was actually a very smart decision, and this is more just like a behind-the-scenes element, but in the past, we've been told, oh, a new pod will open, say, every 5 minutes or whatever. But they notably used very specific wording, which I don't know if they've been doing this, and I've only just noticed it for the past few years, but they used the specific wording of at regularly scheduled intervals. So they had a bit more of a get out of jail free when it came to when the pods opened, as it were. So I thought that was a very clever touch. That said, this was a weird chamber match. It was just weird. The whole thing to me, it felt very... I'm going to say it felt very short and rushed, ultimately, because not a lot happened, and then everything happened very quickly.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that. I think the reason why it comes across like that is because in the story aspect, and we talked about this on the predictions, in the story aspect, there's not much going on with a lot of these competitors. The only storyline that we can kind of see straight away is Asuka, and that's why Asuka winning was the most logical choice, the choice I think a lot of fans wanted to see anyway, and the result that actually happened. It's just like there was no scenario where you could look and say, "Oh, will Carmella be a viable opponent for Bianca Belair?" Probably not. Will Nikki Cross? No. Natalia? No. More the hometown side of things. Liv Morgan? Possibly, considering her Rumble run in January. And then we talked a bit about Raquel Rodriguez as well as a potential winner of this as well. But no, it's just like it was only geared for one outcome, the right outcome, I still think. But yeah, there's not really much to kind of dig in a bit with the match, I suppose. There are some little fun highlights that I remember. I do. There's the powerbomb, I think, through the chamber door that took Nikki Cross out, which the cameras strangely missed as well. There's just like,
yeah, that's sorry to interject, but that's another thing. Some of the just general production of this show felt a little bit off. It's almost like someone maybe had a bit too much to drink the night before in Montreal's bars or something, and they were just a little bit slow on reacting to camera changes. But not to jump on your point further, but just to actually mention the eliminations, as it were, because I've actually written them down as I was going along what occurred. So it was Nikki being eliminated, as you mentioned, after Raquel had basically, as I've written down, driven her through the pod door, quite simply, because that's basically what happened. Carmella and Asuka did a double kick combination to Raquel to ultimately lead to Carmella pinning her, which I actually thought that was a really cool moment. And it actually made Carmella look super good as well.
It did, but I think before that we had Natalia and Asuka both putting submissions on Liv Morgan, taking her out of the match second.
I clearly wrote down my notes in the wrong order then, because I also have noted here that Liv was eliminated, quote unquote, she passed out via double submission from Natalia and Asuka, which did look brutal and pretty damn cool.
Yeah, so no way to tap, only pass out, and it's kind of like, fair enough. I think you kind of hope that Liv would probably stay through to the end, but they were kind of building this sort of little in-ring story of Carmella just running around trying to avoid a lot of things, mostly Asuka. And there's this great sort of, great sort of thing of her just kind of bouncing around from pod to pod trying to avoid Asuka. And it got to the stage where she shut the door and went, "Yes, I've stopped Asuka coming into this pod." Little did she know the back of the pod was still open, and Asuka just kind of went, "Oh, come on in. Hello." And all hell broke loose.
Yeah, it was amusing, that part of it. Natalia was ultimately eliminated after she, I think, took a super kick to the face from Carmella. Yes. And Carmella's kicks in general actually looked really good during the match. I thought she had a good match overall.
Oh, yeah.
Which then meant the final two was Asuka and Carmella, leading to Asuka getting a submission victory and becoming the #1 contender, to the surprise of absolutely no one, but to the sheer joy of absolutely everyone.
Yes. Like I said, and we said it in the predictions, I think a lot of us all just want to see Asuka versus Bianca. That's what we're going to get at WrestleMania. That's going to be a great match. I think if they wanted to make this match probably a bit more meaningful and a bit more stakes, I think they should have tried to build up a bit more cohesive stories around the competitors inside the chamber as well, not just Asuka. I think they did a decent little bit with the finale side of things, of the near falls, the roll ups, the counter roll ups, and all that sort of stuff. Because there's that slight worry that Carmella could have just suddenly grabbed a rope or something, or just kind of hook her the tights or something, just to kind of secure that pinfall. But it was out of that nice little combination. You go straight into like the current submission, which I think might be sort of similar to the Rings of Saturn. I might be wrong there. To get the win. There's not really. I don't want to say this was a terrible match. It wasn't a terrible match. It was a match, but ultimately,
again, the crowd elevated the perception of it, though.
Yeah, and it was really just built for one outcome, the right outcome, to be perfectly honest.
Indeed. A couple of highlights from the match that I've written down as well. Nikki Cross got to do her customary do a crossbody off the top of the pod moment. Which is a really cool little moment. And there was also a really cool spot which started from, I want to say it was Raquel and Natalia doing something, but it ultimately resulted in Liv doing what was effectively a sunset flip powerbomb from her diving off the top of the pod when Raquel was standing on like the middle rope. It was an awesome moment.
I remember this. Yes, I remember that. Again, it's like, I guess, again, I was like, again, I'm not trying to be negative on this match, but it's just like, I only realized those stuff happened when you just go, oh yeah, that happened as well. It's like, okay, match. But
so, like we said, Asuka is the winner, and then we advance on to the next match, which was, as I've written down in my notes in all caps, meat fight. It was Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar.
Let's clarify. Meat fight with a big asterisk next to it. Because it's like, okay, we started out like it was a bit of a meat fight, and then stupid bollocks happened.
So let's cut to the chase of what the finish was. Bobby Lashley won via DQ because Brock Lesnar low blowed him while he was in the Hurt Lock.
Yes.
It's had some fun moments in it. There was, I think, a table got destroyed because a table got destroyed in nearly every match at this point. It wasn't a chamber match. It was all right for a bit. Again, the crowd elevated this to a huge degree. You could tell Brock was well up for this when he got that reaction coming out. There was just that moment where you saw like the light bulb click on.
Yeah.
But it's just, this was what it was. And as soon as they did the DQ finish, I just thought, okay, so we're doing a Wrestlemania match. Yeah, makes sense. Sure.
I mean, we talked about it in predictions. It's like it seemed strange having this match at Elimination Chamber. It seemed like, yeah, this wouldn't. There was something that was going to happen that would probably lead it to this Mania match. But yeah, I think it started out so well. I think there were spears, there were F5s, there were just power moves and stuff like that. It's what exactly we wanted to happen. The thing is, it's like, I think if you're going to if Lashley was going to win that, I think maybe Brock should eat the pin or something like that, just to make Lashley actually feel credible. It just feels more like a throwaway, just because you don't want to see either man get pinned. You don't want to rob them of that sort of like monster aura that they have. But it was weird that Lesnar went to a heel tactic after winning the match for a couple of weeks on Raw, and then after that's like, oh well, I got DQ'd. I'm annoyed. F5 to the ref. F5 to Lashley. F5 to Lashley and then through a table. Oh, and I'll just do the ref again one more time just because. And Brock Lesnar. And off we go. And it's just like, narratively, it doesn't make a lick of sense. The extra big asterisk now is with the activities of SmackDown the night before, where Bray Wyatt decided to say, whoever wins that match, I want a piece of you at Mania or something to that degree with Uncle Howdy.
Is that so? I missed that.
Yes. And it's like, all right, how after this are we going that direction? Is that happening after Mania? Are we going to get the rubber match or the proper rubber match between Lesnar and Lashley at Mania? And then after that, whoever wins that is going to have shenanigans with Bray Wyatt? I don't know. It's just, it's weird.
Maybe Bray Wyatt will be a special referee.
I mean, I can imagine it might possibly work with Lashley versus Wyatt, because if you're really going to start bringing in the faction or this Wyatt 6 faction that's been kind of rumored for a while, and you've got Lashley and MVP slowly teasing like the reformation of the Hurt Business on Raw. Again, yeah. You kind of think, okay, maybe this turns into like a faction war side of things. That's quite cool. That's how I can envision Wyatt versus Lashley. I can't see Wyatt versus Brock ending well for either one of them, to be perfectly honest. It's like, I'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's like, I think if there was a decisive winner in this match, I would have been partially okay with the match. The downside is, if there was an actual decisive winner, we then have to worry about the Wyatt side of things. And it's like, I just don't know if that's gonna pan out the way they hope. It just seems very slapdash, which I hope it doesn't, but it's me.
Now, one thing that did occur after the match was Lesnar got angry If you had on your bingo card for this show, Lesnar gets angry, you could check that box off, and then he proceeded to F5 Lashley, I think through the table. I think this was when the table bit happened. And also, as soon as he lost, he kind of did that moment of thing when the ref was going, mate, you've lost. And he just went, come here. And then just grabbed him and F5'd him. It's like, referee, look, I appreciate you've got a tough job, but if Brock Lesnar says, when he looks quite angry, come here, never get close to him. And he had got F5'd on the outside as well, which that looked brutal.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it's a cool thing to see Brock Lesnar just lay people to waste, or lay waste to people, but it's just after I've low blowed Lashley. Never mind. It just doesn't make sense considering the build up to this match.
Yeah,
I mean, a better way I can imagine this probably could have done on Elimination Chamber is you have that DQ finish, but have it as a bit of a false finish, with basically just Brock and Bobby both go, no, we don't want this to end in a DQ. We're big, beefy, angry men who want to be the alpha male of the species. They just ignore the ref and they just carry on fighting. I thought for a second they were just going to carry on fighting, and then eventually it gets pulled apart on that sort of side. Again, still wouldn't be that satisfactory, but I could kind of go with that than just Brock just going, oh well, F5, 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 F5. I won. You didn't, Brock, but I won. You didn't. I'm going back to the farm. Come back, Brock.
No. At that point, then he's like, I won.
Okay, Brock, you won.
There you go.
Enough. He puts on his cowboy hat, jumps on the tractor, and all the way back to the ranch.
For anyone curious, apparently that match's actual runtime was 5 minutes, just under.
Yeah, so. I mean, I didn't expect it to be like a 20-minute hoss battle. I expected it between 5 and 10 minutes, but again, it's like the ending leaves a very sour taste in like the promise of what this match could have been. And that's the frustrating thing about this feud at the moment. The feud is basically they've had really good moments in promos or little moments in matches, but they haven't delivered that sort of match that you go, yes, I can go with that. It needed to be something like Lesnar versus Goldberg at Mania for the Universal title, where it was just basically, all right, power moves everywhere, and then, Brock's won. That's all it needed to be, and it couldn't even do that.
Is it bad that when you just said Lesnar v Goldberg, the first one I defaulted to was WrestleMania 20?
Yeah, that's why I had to kind of add in the Universal title. Yeah, I know that one wasn't good.
Next up on the show, it was mixed tag action as Edge and Beth Phoenix, essentially a hometown, well, not even a hometown, but a home country return. There was also a fun fact on commentary that it's the first time that Edge had wrestled in Montreal for 17 years or something ludicrous like that, which is a mental stat. But they ultimately defeated the Judgment Day duo of Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley, and Dominic was with them as well. Yes. This was pretty good fun, actually. It wasn't like for want of a better phrase, it wasn't a really freaking long Edge match. It went about just under 15 minutes or so, I think. Decently paced, some fun moments in there. Beth and Rhea pummeled each other, which was freaking great. Edge had some great moments involving Balor. Dominic got chased out because he was being a bit of a div, as he's one to do. Which I half expected Ray to come out and was in a way shocked when he didn't, but fine. Ultimately, it came to the point where I can't remember what it was, but Beth did something to Rhea on the outside, and then this led to Edge being in the ring, and him and Beth ultimately did FTR's finisher, the Shatter Machine, on Balor to get the win, which was a really nice, fun moment, especially because if you've seen the documentary about Edge's, I was going to say first comeback, because it feels like he has come back multiple times at this point. But if you've seen that documentary on the network, it was the now Cash Wheeler, whose WWE name has totally gone out of my mind, who was the one that helped train to get him ready for the comeback. So that was kind of a nice little moment there. Sort of a nice little callback, if you will.
Yeah, I think for me the card kind of really picked up from this match because it's a very sports entertaining side of things. It's not like the wrestling clinic that you would expect things sometimes to be, but it was just like shenanigans. You had Dom getting involved with brass knuckles, running out, coming back in because he's just enjoying getting all that heat. No, I agree.
The crowd had feelings for Dominic, very negative ones.
Yes, Dominic's a bit of a dick. I think that's what happens wherever Dominic just appears in an arena where it's like he's a bit of a dick, but not go away heat. This is more, yes, we know you're an evil heel and we don't like you because you kicked your dad at Clash at the Castle, despite the fact that when Dom kicked Ray at Clash at the Castle at the Wrestle to Watch Along I was at, everyone cheered. It's like with the chanting, "Hit your dad, hit your dad." So it's like so you want him to hit Ray, but you don't want him to be the crowd is silly.
It's almost just kind of, this is a very weird analogy to make, but hopefully you get what I mean. It's almost like in every new town that they go to that's not experienced evil Dominic Mysterio, it's kind of like a new little toy that everyone wants to play with and go, oh, we could do something new here. Let's experiment. Yes. And then they say, F you, Dominic. That's what they decided to do.
But no, I enjoyed this match. As we talked about it on the predictions, we kind of went, this was going to go two ways. If Edge and Beth were going to win, Finn's getting pinned, which is what exactly happened through the Shatter Machine. And if Judgment Day was going to win, it's going to be Rhea pinning Beth. But no, I think the highlights I had with it was basically Beth and Rhea kind of really, really slogging out was really good. It's like two powerhouses, and it's like, yes, this is exactly what we knew would probably happen. That's a good thing. I mean, there's probably room if the Judgment Day feud is continuing, maybe, I don't know, who knows, maybe there's a room down the line just maybe for like one Raw, or maybe like a Raw ahead of Mania, they have like a match to really kind of again build Rhea up, because we've got the 6 weeks now towards Mania. We need to start properly kind of presenting her as another, well, we already feel like she's a credible challenger to Charlotte, but I think we've got to put it into a position where we feel absolutely certain that Rhea is going to beat Charlotte, or basically put her on that same level as Charlotte.
Yeah, I think in a sense, she in a way needs to separate from the Judgment Day for a bit, just kind of almost go, like, if the Edge stuff is going to continue, which at this point, I kind of hope it isn't, because that feels like that was a very definitive resolution in a way. And the only outlier from it technically now was the Ray and Dom thing. So I would like to think that the Edge involvement is now done when it comes to Judgment Day. And then maybe Rhea's going to go, look, I've got a really flipping big opportunity here. I need to kind of just focus on that a bit more. So I'm going to focus on, I'll still hang about and whatnot and help you guys out as needed, but this is my main focus. So then she's kind of brought in when needed. And maybe that's how then Ray gets involved, and she just goes, look, I'm your mummy, but you've got to man up and sort this out. I need to focus on Charlotte. That might be one way of doing it. Yeah,
that might be one way. I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, the press conference after Elimination Chamber, Edge kind of set his sights on someone else to answer an open challenge. And incidentally, that leads into the next match we're actually talking about. So we'll have to see. I mean, maybe there might be, again, it's like, if it feels like, if this is the end of the feud, great, fine, happy with that, let's move on. If it continues more, it needs to end at Mania. And because that's kind of where the whole Judgment Day kind of thing began. So if you've got that year-long path for this kind of like the birth of Judgment Day kick out Edge and Judgment Day at war, it all ends at Mania, we move on. I could be fine with that. But yeah, either way will work, but it can't go past Mania for me.
That then leads us on to the next match, which was the men's Elimination Chamber match of the evening, specifically for the United States Championship, which saw Austin Theory successfully defend against Seth Rollins, Johnny Gargano, Damian Priest, Bronson Reed, and Montez Ford. This was a really fun chamber match. It started with Rollins and Gargano, and I think that helped set a much quicker pace than what the women's match had. And that's not to just throw shade on the women's match, but like we said, it just kind of felt it was there, and then it was just rushed to the end. Whereas this throughout felt a lot more dangerous, if that makes sense, or it felt like there was a lot more going on, I should say, and sort of varying degrees of things that they chose to do. Some of the big moments in the match, I mean, Montez Ford, freaking heck, he was like Superman in this match. It was amazing. That thing I talked about in the prediction video where I kind of really wanted him to win, but I also thought even if he didn't, he is going to have a proper big performance in this. That happened in this. Like everyone was so into him, and everything he was doing looked fantastic as well. He was almost on another level compared to some people in the match, and it really worked out well for him.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite. I think a lot of it, obviously, from his move repertoire, you saw quite a bit of The Rock there. The way he was punching had like proper like had that sort of theatrical oomph behind it, which is kind of what you got from The Rock in the early days.
He was about to do the people's elbow.
He was about to do his version of the people's elbow, which was kind of like, no, he's not. And it's like evil heels stop him from doing that. But
before you continue, I feel the need to give him massive credit for not having an elbow pad and instead taking off the wrist tape.
Yes.
I laughed so hard at that, but I love that little attention to detail. It was magical.
But yeah, it's like Ford also did a rock bottom of all things as well, and it's like, yeah,
it's a damn good one as well.
Yeah, I mean, for the chamber match, absolutely, it's like we said, we hoped it would be the Montez Ford coming out party as a solo performer, and it absolutely delivered. He was absolutely great fun. I think everyone in the match actually had their moments to really kind of shine, and I think, considering we were kind of probably not say completely lukewarm, but we're just kind of going, okay, well, this is a match that's coming. There's only kind of a few story beats coming into this one. Everyone I think comes out better. Really, I think there is potential there for some really good feuds. I mean, Gargano absolutely was having fun in this match. I love the little moment where I love the moment before the really crazy powerbomb reversal off the top of one of the top of the chamber doors or chamber pods is when Rollins and Gargano are just sat on the platform, just kind of going, yeah, it's tough, this match, isn't it? Yeah, I'm going to chest slap you now.
It was just that moment when you could tell like Johnny Gargano had to do everything in his power to not swear, because he kind of pretty knew it's coming, but I don't know when. And when it just hit him, you could tell he went, oh! It was so good. But you know what else? Yeah. Damian Priest looked great in the match as well. Bronson Reed, for what he was involved in, which wasn't a lot in the grand scheme of things, had some great moments as well. Everyone had really great moments. And Austin Theory, he got to have a fun little storytelling thing, and everyone just kept decking him and basically getting him out the way. Yes. And he kind of, in a way, weaseled his way through to the end, which was quite amusing.
Yeah, considering that he was F5'd off like one of the chamber roofs in last year. It's like, oh yeah, a year being out of the Elimination Chamber has made him a better person. Narrative wise, not actually performer. He's been pretty good. He's very good as a performer, but it's just kind of like, yes, he's overcome being F5'd off the top of the chamber to doing his little thing and retaining the belt. But no, I mean, I think the way that the finish came in played into what we kind of predicted in terms of setting up programs mostly for Rollins, because there was this long sort of bit of, oh, Montez Ford looks injured. And it's kind of like, well, I haven't seen the dreaded X thing. So he must clearly be right. And basically the longer the door was remaining open, I'm just going, yeah, someone's coming through that door, aren't they? And it's probably going to be Logan Paul.
So if I may, to sort of try and add some context for how this played out, because it was very well crafted the way they did this, and it sort of justified things very well. It came down to a point where the final three, if memory serves, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was ultimately Montez Ford, Seth Rollins, and Austin Theory.
Yes.
Austin Theory was just kind of out of the way at this point. So it was Rollins and Montez having a bit of an exchange. It got to the point where Ford started just diving over the top rope at people on various sides of the chamber, and it was great fun. He was just flinging himself into the cage and people just running wild.
Yeah.
But then he went for a frog splash on Theory, and Theory got his knees up. And where Ford ended up, he basically was in the position for the stomp, and I can't remember if this was it a stomp just on the outside skirting bit.
Yeah,
and then
so head on the
Yeah, he got stomped and then ended up back in the ring. Theory covered him and eliminated him. And Rollins and Theory kind of keep fighting, but Montez Ford, to put it bluntly, just isn't moving. He's breathing, but he's not moving. And you could tell the ref is looking at him sort of going, hey, move.
Roll out the cage. Roll out.
And then after about 20, 30 seconds, they start calling in more officials to help out Ford. And there's kind of that moment where you're thinking, did he actually get knocked out? Like, what's the deal here? Because you have that moment of, this is either really freaking convincing or he's legit been, like, knocked a bit silly, which is entirely possible given what he had to take. And it got to the point where he started sort of getting helped up. The crowd were giving him, in a weird way, it was a very good moment to give him a reaction that he deserved as well for his performance in the match. It was a way just to give him a really good send-off for, again, not from the company, for the match. So he's kind of being gradually helped towards the chamber door and whatnot. And Rollins and Theory are just carrying on fighting. And then it gets to a point where there's the angle they're showing is from the perspective of you're outside the door looking in, and they get Ford to the edge of it, and you suddenly see him kind of lose his footing, and he kind of sort of mini collapses, and they change the camera angle really rapidly so you can't see what the hell is happening at this point. Ford is then gone. We assume he got carried out or just thrown out. Who knows? One or the other. Hopefully not the latter. Which then led to Rollins about to hit the stomp on Theory. And there's just a moment where there's a little bit of what's he waiting to do. And suddenly Logan Paul comes just pelting it down, leaps into the cage, hits the not buckshot lariat, clocks Rollins, and then rapidly runs out the door, closes the door, starts climbing the cage a bit. And I'm thinking, oh God, what are you going to do now? And he just stands there just laughing, going, ha, kind of like Rollins in a way. And then Theory hit the A-Town down and got the win. And so it is basically confirmed that Rollins is going to face Logan Paul, as we were predicting based on what happened at the Rumble and various other online things that have been said, according to Logan Paul in the 2-camera promo that he was doing on his way out. And this was a really, really fun match. I kind of wish that the women's match was able to have been something akin to this, because this had so many different moving parts, so many different dynamics happening because of the performers they had. And in a weird way, it's a shame the women's match didn't get to have that. And part of me wonders, what if Asuka had just been in there from the beginning to end? But then you kind of get why they didn't do that, because it basically would have been 2 of the same story in the chamber match in many ways.
Yeah.
Or across 2 different chamber matches. But either way, Austin Theory wins and retains in what was a great Elimination Chamber match.
Yes, I'm just having a quick look in the YouTube chat. Harriet Mankagirl, hello, came through with a comment saying the men's elimination chamber match was definitely one of the best that I've seen in a while. I can't recall enjoying a chamber match as much as this one in a while, to be perfectly honest. Maybe apart from when I think the last one I generally probably enjoyed was when I think Bray won the title inside it, and that's 2017.
Was that the one that led to the Worms match with Randy Orton at Mania?
Yes, okay. It did. Yes, it did. That was the 1-week title reign of John Cena, or 2-week title reign of John Cena for that one. But no, yeah, I think this was a very good match. I think out of the chamber matches, it's the best one. I think other than the main event, probably check out this one, because I think even as a neutral, I think you'll enjoy some of the action, some of the moves, some of the big spots as well. And it's lovely Elimination Chamber carnage is what we wanted to see.
Indeed. Oh, and like I say, everyone in that match had a really good showing as well, which also lends well. You know what else had a very good showing, to a point, which we'll discuss more than likely? The main event. Earlier in the evening, we saw Roman Reigns getting hyped up by Paul Heyman while he was drinking blatantly an empty can of energy drink to get ready for this match. And the first person out was Roman Reigns this time, as opposed to being second, which commentary very, I would say cleverly noted, but luckily noted they said it's the champion's prerogative for when he wants to come out in the context of a match. And it's like, okay, good, you've covered that, at least on commentary, as to why this is happening, because in some ways it makes no sense. And the night before on SmackDown, as we alluded to, Sami came out for a promo, which it's a 10-minute segment where he only spoke for about a minute of it. Because that's the kind of reaction he was getting. But one of the big moments in this, or the big atmosphere, the atmosphere creation of this entire thing, is the fact, as you rightly called, Ian, and quite frankly we all wanted, he's gone back to his old music. And my word, was everyone having a laugh singing along to this, and just passionately as well. This is the prime example of it, when you've got the stars aligning and you've got the hometown guy in the main event challenging for the title. This is just like, it's like a hot knife through butter. It's perfect. You can't do it any other way. And this match, it was really, really good fun. There's a heck of a lot to digest in it in terms of the story element, but Sami was getting pummeled for a decent chunk of it, but Sami also took it to Roman for a decent chunk of it as well. And there was his wife and kids, I think, or at least significant other, I'm not sure if he's married, full disclosure, I don't know, in the front row. So that was playing into it, including one point when Roman had basically held him like by his head in front of his family. One of his kids is just crying, literally just crying there. Just wonderful moment. And then Sami manages to fire up and then promptly just quickly runs back over to his wife, kisses her, and runs back in the ring. just awesome drama in this match. Just so good. And the big moments that this comes to is there was a moment where there was a ref bump. And I can't remember exactly how it occurred, but effectively the ref got taken out, which led to Sami getting a clear visual pinfall on Roman and the crowd counting, but the ref not being there. This led to Jimmy coming out, if I remember correctly. I might be getting these in the wrong order now. But either way, there was ultimately also a second ref bump. And throughout all the course of this, Jimmy had come out and had pummeled Sami a little bit, but Sami was still fighting. That Montreal crowd were just willing him on, and he would not quit. Or if you want to steal a Matt Hardy line, he would not die, quite frankly, going back to that phase of Matt Hardy's career. The crowd is just electric for this. And there's part of you that's thinking, surely at this point, I was basically of the point, when it was getting to all of this, my feeling was, I feel like you've got to pull the trigger and make Sami win. It just felt too perfect to not do it. And then we get to a point where there is a second visual pinfall on Roman. And at that point, my brain, and I'll let you guess in a moment here so we can talk about what else happens. But at this point, I'm thinking, if you're going to do two, surely third time's a charm, because I don't recall there having been two very clear visual pinfalls on Roman like that.
No, I don't recall it, because there was, I think in a lot of Reigns' matches, especially the previous ones with Kevin, previous one with Drew, there are ones where there are pretty much visual pinfalls. No, it seems to be part of the staple. It's just like most Roman matches do have a ref bump. This one just had two for the price of one. Strange ones as well, in terms of, I think one was Superman punch, and the second was just, we're just colliding in a corner. Oh no, let us just gingerly just thrash about in the corner. And it's like, oh no, woe is me, I am down, ref down, save me, ref people. You kind of
I've just double checked as well. Jimmy came down after the first ref bump, just to clarify.
First, yeah. You kind of think at this stage, if you know your Roman Reigns match is going to end with a ref bump, maybe have a second ref just ready at the ring to go. But then I guess that robs it. That kind of robs it of the drama, I suppose.
Yeah. So to do a quick summary, and so then I'll let you elaborate on your thoughts then, as it were, as to what unfolded. So we've had the first ref bump. Jimmy's come down. He super kicks Sami to hell. Sami ultimately kicks out after a pinfall attempt from Roman, and also ends up taking out Jimmy. This then leads to Roman talking down to Sami, and then just baiting him into a hard slap. And I'm reading this recap here per the Wrestling Observer for a point of reference.
Okay.
Sami then avoided a Superman punch, which then hit the second referee for the second ref bump of the match. Heyman then handed Roman a chair. This is when Jey Uso, literally like he just teleported, he just appeared. No one knows where the hell he came from. He didn't come down from the entrance ramp. He just appeared. It was freaky, but it was great. And at this point, Jey Uso is standing in between Roman and Sami. And then Roman wants to hit Sami with the chair, but instead, you can tell Jey is still in that conflicted phase of things. And so he then just hands Jey the chair. And we're basically getting here a flashback, a callback, PTSD to the Royal Rumble. What is about to happen here? And Roman turns around so Jey can quite clearly hit him if he wants to. Just a fantastic moment. This is when Jey just wouldn't hit him. He wouldn't. It wasn't that he wouldn't. He just didn't. He was conflicted as to whether he could. That's how I'm describing it, as opposed to he actually wouldn't. And at this point, Sami popped up, went to go for a spear, but Roman moved out the way, clocked Jey, instead. And then Sami was also, at this point, well, obviously, I should say, concerned about Jey. This then led to Roman repeatedly whacking Sami with the chair, hitting the spear, and getting the win. Thoughts?
In terms of storytelling, I thought this was very, very well done. This is like, I didn't realize. I think I was listening back. I think it might have been like the Wrestle Talk review of this, but I didn't realize like the whole main event was, I think, nearly about an hour in terms of everything from like entrances to, so not like the match was an hour, but like the whole kind of
the
part
segment,
of the show,
if you will.
The whole segment of that match is roughly an hour, including video package, entrance, match, what happens at the end as well. And it's just like it's like they knew this was like their big masterpiece theater of wrestling. And it's like they spend like 5 minutes not even touching. It's just the crowd is really kind of amplifying, like obviously the people of Montreal and Sami versus Roman. And yeah, and it's like even for like normal wrestling things of like holds and stuff like that, it's like this is all about the story. I mean, it's especially with the Bloodline stuff, it's all about the story. The wrestling doesn't have to be amazing or tip top. If you're able to bring in that story and make it work in the confines of the match, people are going to lap it up, even if it's not like an AEW match or a New Japan match or stuff like that. And it's just, again, it's like it's the little things like Roman does in the match, the trash talking, the whole bit with Sami's wife at ringside is terrific character work, because it's like, I was going to bring him into my family. I was going to help him make you guys lots of money. We were all going to be a happy family together. And now I have to do this. It's just terrific villain work, really terrific villain work as well. And it's like, I think it's those little moments that I've really enjoyed in Reigns' reign as champion. This is basically, it's not being able to actually have these victories. It's just like, it's the character moments, it's the facial reactions, it's the engagement of the crowd. It's like yeah, trying to process a little bit of how he engaged with the crowd. It's like, oh, he's like, you're not cheering for me. How dare you not cheer for me, and that sort of stuff. Or even like if he gets punched or something like that, it's just like, oh, I'm just annoyed that you've hit me, in that sort of way. Yeah, there's a lot here. There's a lot here. I think the finish, because I predicted the finish was Jey was going to super kick Sami and confirm the path we're going on, but it didn't happen like that. So it's kind of like, okay, storyline perspective, we're not necessarily sure where we're going. Really here with Jey, is it going to be Jey just assumes that Sami did it on purpose, or is there going to be
manipulation involved, quite frankly?
Yeah, manipulation from Reigns, that sort of things. Because even after the match, and you had Jimmy and Roman beating down Sami, KO came out, as I think most of us kind of expected to. Delivered stunners to everyone left, right, and center. Even Paul Heyman for having the audacity to sort of saying, "I'm sorry, Kevin, but but you could be my guy. It's like, no, have a stunner for good measure, all that sort of stuff. But what we kind of thought and kind of believed might have happened, like, oh, this is going to be the big reunion, didn't necessarily happen. It's like, sure, Kevin stepped out of the way so Sami could deliver her Luva kick, but Kevin was just going, all right, well, I've done my stunners. I don't think there's much more for me to do right here, right now. So it's like there's a lot more open. I mean, obviously we're about six or so weeks away from Mania, so there's a lot more storytelling to happen on this. But it's like you still don't know which way it's kind of going. I still think that the course is going to be, we are going to see Sami and Kevin challenge for the tag team titles. Some people kind of feel like it's a demotion after this sort of storytelling from Sami, but it's like, again, it's like, I totally understand where these fans are coming from in terms of how WWE have this organic baby face over the course of 10 months with in front of the cameras. But, and I've said this on episodes before, I still think it's about the overall story. And there's still so many different story elements involved in this. We still have the Kevin Owens factor. We still have the Jay factor. And I think to kind of push it all to the side because we want to see Sami be world champion, or it should be Sami and Roman more than ever, it's kind of like, again, ultimate disservice. I think it does a disservice to the overall storytelling that they've been doing for the last 9 months as well. So I am happy. If they go for tag team belts, I am happy with that because I feel from a narrative perspective it will work. It just, yeah, if it was kind of like, oh, Sami Zayn just randomly teams up with, I don't know, let's just say Sheamus and goes after the tag team belts, doesn't make much sense. It just seems very slapdashy together. But because everything is so intricately connected in this storyline, it kind of makes sense. And I say kind of makes sense. It makes sense. And that's a nice thing. I think the big thing is it's all about the storytelling. And the fact that this match is just the latest chapter of arguably a very great high point in creative for WWE right now. It's kind of like, yeah, let's see how we go.
If I may add perhaps a unique and quite possibly unpopular counterpoint to this.
Okay.
I think for what they wanted to accomplish, for what they ultimately did on this show, I don't think they could have done it any better, if I put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what they did actually did a disservice to the story. And I was genuinely disappointed when this show went off the air. And it's a weird comparison to make, but I got, as a fan, very heavily invested in this. And it wasn't to say I really thought Sami, will win or should win. It was just that thing of, it feels like the stars are aligning here, and it's like Drew at Clash at the Castle. At that point, if there was gonna be a time to get the belt off Roman, why not do it in front of a rabid hot 60,000 seater crowd? Because it would be that forever moment of you think back on it and you'll never forget it. This is kind of an equivalent of that, but it's not that particularly that I think did a disservice to the story. I think it's the fact there was interference in this match, because every single title match, it's the same thing. Roman gets to a point, Heyman's involvement aside, because in the grand scheme of things, it's minuscule. But, Jimmy and or Jay come down, get involved, throw a bajillion super kicks, title match over, move on. That's kind of what it's got to at this point with every single Roman title defense. And this was the one time, based on how personally, what's the word I want to use? How personally aggrieved Roman was at the entire situation that Sami had created. This was the one time where I thought this was going to be, no, Roman's going to say, I'm doing this. Don't get involved, or there will be consequences, and actually stick to that. Because it was kind of implied that he had told everyone else to stay away. And this was kind of the one time I thought Roman has to do this on his own and actually prove a point in a way. Because otherwise, we're going into WrestleMania now, and assuming, for example, it's Roman v. Cody, just going on that assumption, are we just going to get interference in the main event of that? Because at this point, I can't recall a title defense where there's not been interference for Roman.
If we're going back, I don't recall there was much interference with the John Cena match. I can't remember there being much interference on the John Cena match. I might be wrong there. Definitely with the Daniel Bryan match in the Thunderdome after Mania, I don't recall there being much interference as well. So I think that there are times where Roman doesn't need the interference per se. I think in certain circumstances where the story needs it, like say Last Man Standing with Brock, that makes sense. With Clash of the Castle, the interference is more to introduce a new character to the fray, really. So yeah, I can see your point.
This is the thing. I appreciate I might be in a minority on this. It's not to say what they did, they probably did it as best they could. It's just in that moment, I think it would make Roman look far stronger in the situation if he'd have done if he'd have used chairs and tables or whatever, fine, but him doing it, not anyone else doing it. And I think that's the point now where I'm at. Is this just the way it's going to be? Like, it's here's a comparison, because I think you mentioned it a few times. It's like Britt Baker title defenses for a while when she was AEW's women's champion.
Oh yeah.
It was always like, okay, is it Jamie Hayter and or Rebel getting involved every single time? Like, when's that going to change? And I seem to recall that was irking you quite a bit at the time. I think this is my equivalent of that now, that this is where it's at. But because of all the storyline elements specifically, that's why I kind of felt just disappointed in the way this ultimately played out. Just for that reason, like I say.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that. I kind of feel, I think a bit, I think I don't recall with, so I was trying to think of the Rumble match to see if there was anything to kind of interference was there. I mean, there was the storyline of Reigns wanting Sami to kind of get involved and Sami not getting necessarily involved. But I don't recall seeing Usos there until after the match, possibly. I might be wrong there.
Maybe it's just because I mean, that said, I actually enjoyed that title defense, so maybe that's why I don't remember it.
Yeah.
It's weird that sounds.
I think right now, in terms of the Bloodline storyline, you've got with the interferences, there is that added extra story element to it. So there is something a little different about the interferences at the moment. Again, it's like Clash of the Castle, you got Solo coming in. Royal Rumble, you have Sami there kind of trying to possibly do the final test and so forth. Here, we've got Jay struggle, kind of really wanting to deck Roman with that chair, but still not strong enough to pull the trigger, and unfortunately gets a spear, an accidental spear for his troubles. So I feel when it comes to Mania, I feel we might see another ref bump or something like that, but I also feel like from a storyline perspective, it's going to be kind of different, or it should be kind of different. I think with Mania, if we are taking the belts off Roman at Mania for Cody, I think this is probably the point where the Bloodline don't help him, or basically it's kind of like Bloodline have enough, or the Bloodline just literally implodes and through the interferences, and that's how Cody will probably take the belts.
Or to add to that, it may also come down to what's the way to phrase this point to make it make sense? Where in the context of WrestleMania weekend is the other Bloodline activity happening, and when?
Yeah.
Because if it happens earlier in the night, for example, and they're all effectively taken out, it makes perfect sense why they wouldn't be there to help Roman.
True.
But like I say, I also appreciate I'm probably very much in a minority with this opinion. And it's just because of the way I felt. And I think it's because I got so invested in it on a fan level. And there was just that point when that was my mindset going in. And I liken it to how I felt when it was FTR challenging to be quadruple champs in AEW, in that I just thought, this won't happen again. They've got to do it. They've got to pull the trigger on this. And it was a great match, but ultimately they didn't. And I was really genuinely disappointed, because I just thought, you're never going to get that chance again. Even if they just held the titles for a week and lost them again a week later, you're never going to get that moment again. So it's sort of something akin to that. But also, you mentioned the Kevin Owens stuff afterwards. It was cool he came out. I kind of wish, even though there's kind of clearly that frosty tension which they're going to smooth over at some point, I kind of wish there had even just been a moment of them face to face in the ring, and maybe just a little quick, almost like a fist bump or just a nod of acknowledgement, because they didn't even do that. It was just them staring at each other. You kind of almost want something just to give the crowd And then ultimately, the show went off the air with Sami just kind of really taking in what's happened. And he's getting appreciation from the fans, but the genuine disappointment that all those fans were left with as the show went off the air, it was kind of that thing of, could you not have given something? Like something.
Maybe it's their way of kind of, it's kind of like when all hope is lost, something will happen eventually down the line towards Mania. Maybe that's what's probably going to happen. I think, what was it? Western Talk had a really good observation of it being like, it's like your favorite character being killed off at a TV show or in a movie. It's kind of like, yeah, it sucks to wind out, but I think that was the desired effect. And if we're kind of feeling who on earth's going to beat Roman, obviously there's the Cody factor coming into this. But I think there's still room for Sami to return to dealing with Roman down the line at some point, maybe. But yeah, I mean, I remember having kind of like the same kind of feeling when Drew didn't win at Clash of the Castle. It's just like all the stars seem to align there, but it didn't happen, deflate. But it's just kind of like we've gone down the line. We've kind of gone, okay, I can see probably why we didn't do that now from a narrative perspective, but also from a business perspective, because Reigns is the guy.
Reigns is the one.
Yeah, he is the one, and it's like as much as you kind of think they can't not have him in like the main event of WrestleMania. It's not like he's like, it can't be. It could be Sami versus Cody. It's like you need Roman in a way, and the fact is that the reign he's had, kind of like the impact the character and the bloodline have had, you just, if you want to put the best possible card and the best possible matches and the big money match, I think the big money match is Reigns versus Cody, and at the moment fans are happy with the fact that Cody's going for the title. Fans want to see Cody go for a title. Fans are going to see Cody go for a title. And fans got to see Sami go for a title. It's just, I think the nice thing about it is possibly, I think the real frustration is the fact that we're in the Reigns reign at the moment. And I think once the Reigns' title run is done.
Once he's lost the reins.
Yeah, once he's lost the reins of the belt. I feel like there may be a bit more breathing room to see performers like Sami, to see performers like Kevin, and other stars at that top main event level to have their run with a belt or something like that, because you can't keep both belts together still. It's like, I think around this point we couldn't see how an undisputed championship would work, and it's kind of had its advantages in a storytelling aspect, but really you're kind of bottlenecking who on earth could possibly pick up the belt. So it's kind of like, the sooner the belt's off Reigns, the better. But I think the natural conclusion...
It feels like we're back to the Brock Lesnar situation now.
It is. But I with the current storyline, it makes sense. It's like, I think if it's like I said with Judgment Day and the Brock and Bobby match, if it's done at Mania and it's all said and done, and those belts are off him, and the world is everyone's oyster with this, great. Because I can definitely imagine Cody winning the belts at Mania and kind of going, I have these belts, but I believe the people deserve more than one Ultimate Champion. So I'm going to keep the WWE Champion because that's the one I came for. I would like to relinquish the Universal Championship and let a new person be crowned, which they could probably do on the SmackDown after Mania or something like that, if it went that way, per se.
I mean, hey, the main event could still end up being a three-way.
Could do.
Which is something I mentioned. Because that's the other thing as well. To sort of try and, for want of better phrasing here, but to sort of moving away from Elimination Chamber in terms of what's next. Because either way, show is done. The main event, in terms of emotional investment, home run. That's clear from the way we've both discussed this, how I'm guessing other people online have probably reacted to it. Because, full disclosure, everyone, I've not been on the internet all day because I wanted to just keep my thoughts how they are, or as it were, without it being clouded by other opinions and stuff. So that's what I've presented from my point of view here today, and I don't know anything else that's gone on. But in terms of where we go next, Monday Night Raw is tomorrow, Monday the 20th of February, depending on when you may be watching us at a later date. So no doubt we'll start finding out what the next direction is. Will Roman show up on Raw to, for want of a better word, confront Cody? So we get that first hint of main event WrestleMania activity. We'll probably start seeing some other things being built, like Charlotte and Rhea could be one. In fact, no, that'll be SmackDown, won't it? So I guess it will be Bianca and Asuka. One would assume we'll start to get a bit more reaction to that, or things building up. Maybe the tag team titles thing, that's got to happen at some point, whatever's going on with that. There are other championships, the US title. Maybe we'll see what's next for Austin Theory. Now is probably the time this coming week when the first pieces of what will the 2-night WrestleMania be, in terms of what matches will there be, we'll probably start to get our first clear hints as to what else may be coming.
Yeah. I think a lot of what's been reported and suggested is probably going to be set more likely in stone. So it's Reigns, Cody. We've got Logan versus Seth. That's the thing. We've got the women's title matches all sorted now. So we've got Bianca versus Asuka. We've got Rhea versus Charlotte. Yeah, all that sort of stuff. So everything is starting to kind of already. So I'd say probably a third of the card looks like it's all done at the moment.
It'll be interesting to see what the day splits are like in terms of what matches happen on what day and how many.
Yeah, I think.
But of course, go on. Sorry.
Considering it is a Triple H run Mania, hopefully that means it's a 5 or 6. It's a 5 or 6 run night match, or matches per night per se.
I thought you could say 5 or 6 hours a night.
No, God, no. no. Sorry. I mixed my words up there a little bit. No, I can imagine it being like 5 or 6 matches per night. That nice, comfortable number with a 2-hour kickoff show, just to get everyone else involved.
2-hour kickoff show,
because that's how it's been with the Vince run shows. Whereas with the Triple H shows, you've got your kickoffs, but not necessarily things happen on the kickoff show. So maybe things a little bit more concise, more kind of pinpoint precisioned. A bit of what we're going right. We're going to have this women's match on night 1. We're going to have this women's match on night 2. We're going to have world title, and basically Cody Roman's going to be main event night 2. That will be the weekend closer, if you will. That is the closer. There's no ifs or buts about it. It's the closer, but it's everything else around it. So it's that getting that balance right. And again, we'll have to see what really happens there. But
I would also be curious. Oh, again, sorry, pardon me. Sorry,
no worries. Just quickly, in terms of the US Championship at the moment, Edge is answering Austin Theory's open challenge at the press conference for that. So I think the argument was, he keeps talking about John Cena, and I don't like John Cena fans, so I'm going to beat him up. But he's like, but I respect John. He's a good worker. But I still have my rivalry with John, so I'm still going to be Austin Theory.
He might be the peacemaker, but I'm narrated our superstar.
Oh, yes.
Or whatever character he was in Vikings,
I just remember Money Plane.
I think he was in the Arrowverse. What was that, Cody? No, Cody was in the Arrowverse, wasn't he? And Edge was in like Vikings and Haven and stuff like that. I'm digressing.
Anyway.
But yeah, I'll also be interested to see ultimately how integral will the final SmackDown before Mania be, because it seems like now the final SmackDowns before a Saturday event, premium live event, seem to have a little bit of implication as to what else is going to happen now. There's part of me which wonders that. But on that note, good sir, that has been Elimination Chamber 2023. Any other additional thoughts before we wrap up today? And to those of you watching as well, if you've got any other comments in the chat that you would like to pass over before we go off, we'll see if we can read some before we go off the air. Good sir, any other closing thoughts on the show or random observations you may have had?
Just looking in the chat right now, Harriet has come back saying, this is definitely Sami's weekend, from SmackDown to the main event. Just amazing atmosphere throughout, thanks to the crowd. And heck yes, 2 worlds apart. I agree. I think if he came out trimly, like beard trimmed, flap cap, I think that would have been, yes, this is all perfect. I mean, it didn't happen, but it was still quite nice that Worlds Apart came back.
To be fair, his beard looked a lot more clean shaven than it has done in recent times.
True. He's not gone down like the conspiracy theorist route
yet. Oh wait, is that what's going to happen? Is he going to go back to that?
No, God, no. I think we've gone beyond that. You've got a nice pure baby face now. keep him a babyface now.
I imagine if they double back on that. It's a horrible
Oh,
thought.
no.
I will say the only other random thought I did have was that I thought overall Michael Cole and Corey Graves did a good job on commentary.
Yeah, they're good. They're a good team. They don't have Vince shouting in their ear, so I think that they've been a bit more fluid in terms of what they say, in terms of how they kind of really sell the atmosphere in the moments. So yeah, really good commentary stuff.
But also just in terms of adding to the emotion of the evening as well, I think they actually did a very good job of letting you really sort of sink in what was going on around you, and sort of and clarifying in some cases like what maybe the crowd was inferring, because there were some chants, for example, in French, and I don't speak French, so I never learnt the language in school. I learnt German, so while I could gather, okay, that's clearly an antagonistic chant towards Roman, is it? And then Corey Graves, be it he knew or he purely guessed, just went, yeah, they don't like Roman, do they? Little things like that. But yeah, just a random observation there from myself. On that note, if you would like to stay in touch here on BunkaMania, make sure you subscribe to our channel here, because we will have more videos coming out. Over the coming week or so, we should be having some thoughts, more some Japanese wrestling, actually, because New Japan Pro Wrestling's Battle in the Valley show took place during Elimination Chamber. And I have seen all of that, so there will be a video coming talking a little bit about how that was and such very soon. And we'll likely have 1 or 2 other videos in the pipeline as well. If you want to find us on Twitter, you can find us at BunkaMania UK. And of course, good sir, if people want to get in touch via email, what's the best way they can do that?
Well, they can do a Hoover kick of their emails over to contact@bunkamania.com. Send us your thoughts of the show and where the storylines are going in general. What do you think is happening at Mania? We'd love to hear from you.
Indeed. And on that note, thank you very much for watching. From myself, the giraffe, and me, Jeremy Graves. From him, the Dekker Dane, Mr. Ian Bolton. We've been BunkaMania Wrestling. Until the next Wrestle Talk based program, because that's a different channel. Thank you for watching, and talk to you soon.
Cross-branding, Jeremy. Cross-branding. But they are a lovely channel. Do support them.
They're great. I'd had a stream of consciousness. That's what I said, everyone. So you have to make do with that. But either way, folks, thank you very much for watching. And until next time, we will speak to you very soon. Have a nice rest of your weekend.
Good night.